Okay. I'm always really nervous doing this, no matter how many people are there, and now I can't see anybody at all. But I wanted to thank Akron, Matthews, and the Indian Photo Festival for this opportunity to show my work and bring me to India, which is a long-time dream come true. I've wanted to come to India for 30 years. And I think it was a revelation meeting the students here. I have never seen such good work with such passionate students, and it was wonderful, and I hope some of you will keep in touch with me. The photographs of my daughter span 17 years. They're published in 2 Aperture books, and there's a new project that Akron included about 5 pictures from that aren't in the 2014 book. But this new project, Swan Song, is more of Amelia's creation, and maybe we're going full circle, because now she really tries to direct me. The first photograph that officially started the series is Amelia and Ricky. My husband and I were astounded by our 3-year-old child's reaction to Ricky, who was 2 years old. And I was only going to photograph Ricky. My first book project was on primates, called Like Us, Primate Portraits. And they loved each other, and they fell off the chair, hugging each other. We've taken for granted Amelia's natural ease with animals. My first book, Like Us, Primate Portraits, where I earned my access to animals and their human companions. And my second book is Dog Watching. I regretfully quit my primate project in 1992. I learned a painful lesson that there's no going back to opportunities I passed up. Time changes everything, and access, and my subjects. This is a lesson I am still learning. The photographs that evolved into this series, Amelia and the Animals, enabled me to connect with another generation of privately owned primates in the U.S. My daughter and my meetings with animals are profound, and they're complicated experience that transcend my inadequate explanation. But just maybe something of the magic we encounter gets into our photos. I fall in love with almost every animal I photograph. I think animal people understand this. Most probably one-sided, I feel an intense intimacy with the animals and their caretakers. Defying logic, I want the animal caretakers I like to adopt me into their families. Many times we revisit, and sometimes we're invited to stay in their homes. This is Tash, a year later. I had not set out to photograph my child. I'm a working mother and perpetually overwhelmed with deadlines and university politics. I'm finally a tenured professor, full professor in photography, and I've tried to give my daughter what she needs, take care of my home, get along with my husband, and then try to produce art, and get hired for magazine assignments with an animal edge. I actually never contact the magazines, they contact me. School takes a priority in my life, as well as my child. My motivation to photograph animals with my now 19-year-old daughter is still driven by a need to be with my daughter and to share my animal encounters with her. I am surprised to discover Amelia's ability to have easy rapport with animals. Some people have called Amelia an animal whisperer. Meeting animals has been my way to lure Amelia to be with me. I hope we will see these experiences as a gift, and it's another way to remember me by. Amelia is my only child. I am continually figuring out how to be a mother, even now that she's away in college and comes home to visit and be baby. I practice on my daughter, and I make a lot of mistakes. Being a mother is confusingly hard. It was easier and less painful to be a daughter, except for the retrospective guilt. Despite the Amelia project, I feel like I've spent too much time away from my child, who grew up even faster than everyone warned me. Amelia is a powerful 19 with a cutting logic. She has grown to be my opposite in many ways. My husband has been confounded how we connect, despite being able to break each other in anger in seconds. We work together. Photos from our sub-project, Swan Song, has made Amelia happy that they are exhibited at the Indian Photo Festival and at the end of this presentation. Up until Amelia, my excuse to photograph has been my drive to be with animals, who I admire, to save and memorialize them through photography, their lives always too short. My story has always been with animals, and actually Amelia has been the aberration. I started photographing my cat when I was 10 years old. My MFA master's thesis exhibition and project at Pratt was animals, pets, and strays. Trying to communicate with animals, witnessing what I call interspecies relationships, and being accepted into a dog pack or holding a baby gorilla have been my highs. Now, my most intense life experience has been growing up and old with my daughter, coping with her living away at college and figuring out what to say as we FaceTime every day. This is a portion of the Aperture Foundation's Kickstarter. Since my daughter Amelia was 3 years old, she has been the inspiration for my work and the subject of my photographs. I've been working for 12 years on the series, dedicated to documenting mine and Amelia's adventures among the animals. Oh, shit. Help, help! I don't know what I did. Sorry. Spacebar. Okay. No, I fucked up. Again. Okay. I can't see that well up here, so I'm just plugging this flashlight thing in. And then I'll start again. I really apologize. I'm sorry. Here we go. Oh, I can see now.
Okay.
I'm glad this isn't being recorded.
I am.
Since my daughter Amelia was 3 years old, she has been the inspiration for my work and the subject of my photographs. I've been working for 12 years on the series, dedicated to documenting mine and Amelia's adventures among the animals. I am driven to depict relationships with animals, but the photographs are not documents. They are evidence of the invented worlds that we explore and the fables we enact together. The world that my daughter and I explore is one where the line between humans and animals overlaps, where animals are part of our world and humans are part of theirs. I like books. I think that they take you away. If there's a book, if the Kickstarter works, this is the cover. So. And I think Amelia, looking at the pictures of Amelia, for some of the animal people, they remember their kids, little. And it gives them something, I think, of that remembrance and that connection. Taking her with me and doing this, I hope that she remembers it and tells her kids about it. And the most exciting thing, my present for Mother's Day, was that a 6-month-old baby kangaroo, Joey, was generously brought to my house in Hoboken, and we photographed. I don't get to photograph a lot while she's in school. Amelia's 15. She has a life of her own. She's a teenager, but this was a big Mother's Day gift to me. My daughter has always been more than sweet. Amelia is tough and very smart, and her assertive verbal skills far exceed mine. I seem to lose every argument if I could talk. Becoming a mother did not come naturally to me. I'm comfortable holding dogs, not other people's babies. And thank goodness for the intense bond breastfeeding gave us, helping me to be less afraid of my new daughter. Photography further links us, giving Amelia adventures. Until the first year of college, Amelia was unfazed by the uniqueness of her childhood. Our photographic partnership evolves and continually changes our relationship. My struggle is to drop my mother ego listen and consider Amelia's suggestions so we could brainstorm and negotiate what to do in extremely time-pressured and sometimes uncomfortable situations. My job is physically and intuitively demanding, or Amelia's job is physically and intuitively demanding. The animals have to like her. Sometimes Amelia has to hold a real wiggler with sharp claws, like that baby anteater, and she ends up getting her teeth examined and examined with a whole little primate in her mouth. Up until the new fashion project, pee and poop were a norm for Amelia. For me, managing the light is a constant stress that I can't seem to do really well. I've never worked with a photo assistant besides Amelia. I do appreciate her collaboration and how hard she works for me. I began the Amelia project in earnest because my mother and my mother-in-law died when Amelia was 3 years old. They died just a few weeks apart. I was depressed. My plan was this project is what Amelia will have of our time, a legacy for my daughter. My own father had died just after I turned 19, and my dark attitude about death and my own mortality is morbid. Photography is my therapy, and of course animals are a necessity for my survival. Our household animals have been all over Amelia since birth. We tried a crib for a week, but it seemed cruel to keep Amelia in a cage while we slept together with 2 dogs and 2 cats. I guess that's why Amelia at 3 was not fazed when Elmo, a lemur, flew over her head. Although my husband believes Amelia is named after his grandfather, Emil, I got the necessary A name from my friend Allison. Her monkey's name was Amelia. My Amelia and little Amelia took to each other. Little Amelia died in 2013. She was estimated to be 45 years old. I photographed the memorial service and my Amelia saying goodbye. The backstory to little Amelia is that I began photographing her in 1988 with her human sister Hannah and dog Barker. Having a monkey for a sister and being called Monkey Girl was not easy for this full scholarship Yale graduate. Hannah was the only other child I have ever had the drive to photograph. I photographed the author photo for Hannah's book, Everything Sucks, a junior high school memoir, which includes some stories about little Amelia and Allison. Now Hannah is a TV writer and actress in LA. My Amelia inherited my attachment to toy monkeys. At 2.5 years old, my Amelia made my husband and I dance with her toy monkeys. I photographed and traveled with her beloved monkey dolls for 8 years and eventually accepted them as family. Amelia used to say they were my grandchildren. Amelia completely banished them from her life and will not discuss them. Amelia is more mature than I am, and I have inherited them. Only now, coming home from college, she acknowledges her favorite is me. That's me. In hindsight, I have many regrets. I regret that I was too busy to play with them all when I had the chance. I now see that most work deadlines were not important. I miss the way the toys came to life as distinct real characters in our lives. I took for granted that everyday magic that is fleeting with a ticking biological childhood clock. I hope that Amelia might write about her well-traveled friends and their adventures. She set up many of the shots with her beloved animals, with her beloved doll companions and the animals we visited. Many of my early opportunities to photograph Amelia with animals came from my students telling me to go to upstate New York to the Catskill Game Farm. The location was a gift, a place out of time. Boy Deere understood that corn trees had to be bought. This photo Deerline was published twice in Oprah magazine. Boy Deere were very, very pushy. Amelia put up with my deer obsession. She's always been a monkey person. Shy girl deer only came forward when the boys were isolated because their antlers velvet was shedding and very sharp. Amelia learned how to win the trust of the girls. Amelia's low-key with animals and she lets them come to her. Amelia has never thought she does anything special with the animals or with the photographs. When Amelia was 3 years old, we met Sheba at the Catskill Game Farm, and Amelia made direct conversation with Sheba the elephant. On Amelia's command, Sheba picked her up over and over and over again. We went back to visit Sheba later that summer and found that she'd been deported back to Canada for not having the proper paperwork. It took us three years to make the trip to visit Sheba in Canada. The elephants I photographed Amelia with were all well cared for females in their 40s. I had the privilege of knowing their trainer for many years. In this photograph, I think Jenny's sniffing her butt, Amelia's butt. Some circus people have taken a chance on us and admitted us into their world to photograph. Fortunately, circus people take to Amelia, and my photographs of primates further helped me get in. Performing animal people and caretakers of exotics all know each other. Heather, who has an educational zoo for kids to experience at school, befriended us with access to her animals, and this is an albino wallaby. This is my Goldilocks picture. It's titled Investigation. Amelia had to figure out how to lure the shy kangaroos. Amelia earned this kangaroo, her name is Mouse, trust. Without asking Heather, Amelia placed her hand inside Mouse's pouch and felt a very small pinky. That's what a baby gorilla, a baby kangaroo rather, is called when before she grows into a joey. This pinky had not pinked out yet, and or had been checked at that early stage. Heather told me she watches kids at school, how each child interacts differently with each animal. Heather said that Amelia has an aura. This was the first time an animal caretaker talked to me about Amelia specifically relating to animals, but afterwards this has been said many times. Amelia does not take in the compliment that animals are particularly comfortable with her and being continually told how lucky she is. She only acknowledges our project at photo events we sometimes attend. But now she does post my photos on Instagram, usually without credit. Her account is, this is Amelia, this period is period Amelia, and she'd really appreciate it if all of you follow her and like message her hello. She's into it. The story here is that a Fox TV show asked me to film me and Amelia doing something big, like with an elephant. They wanted me to find it and cover all the expenses. To get an animal to my home, and to get this animal to the home for my show. Stressed out about upcoming university tenure, I thought a TV feature could help my profile. As a favor, my friend Heather made the 3-hour drive to bring 3 kangaroos to our 3rd floor apartment walk up. This is a shot I got out of it. Mouse did have a special bond with Amelia that was interesting to watch. The story never aired, and I never heard from them again or saw the footage. They sucked. The one CBS TV network did feature, it did work out, and the CBS producer was extremely caring with us. I wanted Amelia to have good experiences and some fun during the shoots, which can be hard. I depend on Amelia's ingenuity, physical dexterity, strength, and experience. How Amelia engages with each animal depends upon the animal's socialization and that particular caretaker's situation, not necessarily the breed or the species, as people assume. The animals I have photographed defy common generalizations, stereotypes, and media reporting. While I photograph, Amelia figures out on her own how to relate to the animals. We try to talk it out beforehand, choose clothes and a background, which is often the most challenging aspect of a session. Ultimately, what happens in front of the camera is on Amelia. Amelia tries several approaches and does as much as she can to help me with positioning, but we must go with the flow, while I persistently keep shooting until we all fall apart. When the animal or Amelia is done, they are really done, no matter how good they look in my viewfinder. The majority of this project was shot with a Mamiya 7 with Fuji Pro 800 film, but in 2009, I started photographing digitally and with film at the same time. I usually photograph with 2 cameras, if I can. My aim shooting film was to go for one good photo. Amelia said I took too long to load the film and I missed all the best situations. Maybe that's when I really started cursing. My daughter will not curse because of me. I got stressed and embarrassed her with my language. I gladly said goodbye to film and still have 200 rolls of film in my freezer if anybody wants it. Now I'm an annoying pain with my digital cameras that keep on going. Photographing digitally makes sense for live, fast-moving animals in very challenging low-light environments with no photo assistance. I used film and chemicals for 35 years, even mixing RA4 with benzene, and I worked as a photo technician and photo assistant. I'm cooked on that front and I have nothing to prove. Digital drives me nuts, as I can shoot too much and miss the moment, but digital is better for me to use faster shutter speeds in low light and save money. When Amelia was 10, we agreed I would only photograph her with animals, not bother her with solo images. Meeting animals was what she wanted back then, what she got out of the shoots. Now Amelia asks me to photograph her without animals, and I don't want to. While editing for the second Aperture book, my editor told me she wanted to see some pictures of Amelia without animals, and I didn't have them. And Amelia told me, I told you so. We're both very stubborn. Early on, Amelia had no fear of bugs, saliva, slime, poop, or dead things. The deer had been washed up in the bay in East Hampton. Except for this photograph, I've not photographed anything dead, taxidermied, or through bars or glass. The personal experience of a relationship of real encounter is what I seek. I photograph for the experience and the adventure, and if something works out photographically, that's fine, but my high is really dealing with the animal. Lying with the dead deer was Amelia's idea, and I was really sort of freaked out by it. Amelia seemed to be talking to the deer in her head. She clearly was empathetic to the deer and keenly interested in the bones and structure. Amelia wanted to touch it, but I wouldn't let her. Growing up, Amelia was interested in science. At one point, she wanted to be a primatologist. And although Amelia is a talented artist, she would never choose art like her struggling parents. Amelia's college majors are economics, political science, and Spanish. People with animals allow me access as a favor, a kindness. For their gift of faith in me, I work to honor their trust in me and to honor the animals in my photograph. I give photographs or files now as a thank you for access. My aim has been to cross the line and become friends with animal contacts. It is a privilege to be accepted as a friend. These are 6 Sphinx hairless mutant cats in Sandy Adler's home. She was one of the first Sphinx breeders in the U.S. Sandy loved Amelia and treated her like a granddaughter. This was good for Amelia, having no grandparents. We got our pink Sphinx cat with blue eyes from Sandy after my much-loved Cornish Rex died. As a hairless cat, Jacob sought heat and slept with me or Amelia. Jacob had to be bathed weekly. As luck would have it, Jacob was a greasy Sphinx. Some aren't greasy. He hated those baths. He never got used to them. It was torture. Jacob left his brown body grease on our sheets and dandruff behind on our sheets and clothes. Being hairless also comes with teeth deterioration. This was Jacob's second dental cleaning. My first Chinese crested, also a rescue, had 4 dentals. These medical procedures really add up. This is my favorite photograph of my sweet boy and Amelia in our firehouse tower bedroom. Here, Jacob is purring and happy to be in the sunny tower where we sleep. I live in an old firehouse. And he's with Amelia. 4 days later, he died of cancer that had been diagnosed just 2 weeks before. And the other one is a snap of them when they were little. I draw on historical paintings for ideas. This is inspired by Leonardo da Vinci's Lady with an Ermine. This is my John Singer Sargent and my friend Linda's garden. This is my Frida Kahlo, and my first rescued Chinese crested Nora when her eyes were clear before she went blind. Marc Chagall and Henry Rousseau were my favorite artists as a child. This is Stretch from Amelia's day camp, and just before I photographed him, he had long fluffy hair. They shaved it off the day before, and he rolled in the dirt. My Rousseau is a favorite besides the chimp photo. Amelia says that Lorenzo, that's the 3-month-old baby tiger's name, is her favorite photograph and the cover of her last book. This is my Lady Godiva. And this is my Philip Halsman, Salvador Dali and the Flying Cat. Our Hannah liked flying at least the first 15 times. Hannah's only 6 pounds and the bravest and smartest in our household. Jacob was the opposite, cautious and clumsy. He's in the carriage, the cradle at the bottom. Maybe because I'm Jewish, I have a fascination with medieval art, especially with the Virgin Mary. My interest in Christianity confounds and still embarrasses Amelia. It annoyed her that I wanted Jacob to be the baby Jesus and her to be the Virgin Mary, and this photograph is named Trinity. Amelia felt it was disrespectful to have Jacob as the baby Jesus. Another religious inspiration here are the skunks. Although Amelia did not like my second Cornish Rex, Nathaniel, they were competitive from the get-go. Nathaniel was so jealous of Amelia when we brought her home as a newborn, and where my first Rex really adored her. And 5-pound Jacob enjoyed just sitting on top of her, as if she were a mountain conquest. Amelia was kind and helpful at the end. She cajoled him to eat and hydrated him with a needle and fluid bag. Nathaniel survived 3 years of diabetes, insulin shots twice a day, and seizures. We now feed no grain food and deli turkey to Hannah, so we don't want her to get diabetes. Rebecca, our nurturing, beautiful white whippet, the dog of my dreams. Becky was my first daughter and Amelia's constant companion. I tucked them into bed together. It was always easy to, Amelia would just go to bed, tuck them in, say goodnight, and it was just a piece of cake. Rebecca took photo direction without being asked, as she was photographed since puppyhood. Whenever I pulled the camera out, Becky went in front of the camera, right beside Amelia. Becky was just 1.5 years older than Amelia. Becky is ill with a brain tumor in this photograph, in these next few frames, and in the flying hat photo before. Because of Becky's frantic aftermath of debilitating seizures, we all took turns sleeping on the living room floor with her. Amelia spent the last night with her canine sister, and she had to wake us up with the worst and final seizures. Amelia has never been close to another animal like she was with Becky and still greatly misses her. This summer, when I stopped to pet a white dog in Manhattan that looked like Becky, Amelia just stood far back. I saw the pain of her remembering Becky. Amelia grew up with 2 animal packs: Noah, Jonah, Nathaniel, Rebecca, Nora, and Jacob. Becky spanned both packs. They marked the end of an era, and this was my first whippet, Jonah. My friend Jackie just breaks into tears when she sees that picture, so I try not to have it around. The surviving member of the pack is the second pack is Hannah, and she's here in my mother's wedding dress, which I wore at my wedding, and I shredded it. I'm not very careful. Amelia is not connected in that utterly deep, sweet way to our current household. Amelia has grown to be logical and not eccentric with me. Our current dogs are my whippet Ruby and my second rescued Chinese crested Indy. Amelia's not a fan of Indy at all. They're really competitive, and it annoys Amelia when I kiss her, which I seem to do a lot. I take Indy with me to school, and she sits next to me, and I told some people she just stares at my students, and I think she unnerves them, which I sort of like. the winter Becky was dying, I brought home a beautiful Cornish Rex cat named Elijah. This Rex broke me. We call him Pee-Pee Boy. This photograph gets selected for publications. Pee-Pee Boy is happily living in California now, and I have a new washing machine. In a weak moment after Pee-Pee Boy, Amelia and I rescued an orange cat, Samson, a loner, a killer, a bully, and a fighter. Samson demonically slapped both my Chinese crested dogs. Sammy was Amelia's favorite animal at home. He was a bad guy. All shoots are gambles, as this shot of Thunderfoot, the skunk. Amelia used my new Canon. I got a semi-usable shot of Peep, a really fat albino skunk. I reshot the skunks again to do better. Thunderbolt really loves Amelia, but she doesn't love him. I do. I kept asking Amelia to be engaged, but Thunderfoot's caretaker thought Amelia was great with her sensitive skunks. I realized I do not understand Amelia's ability to lull animals without trying, and that I have taken her for granted, her talent for granted. I'm an animal groupie. We visited Dilly the deer four consecutive years. Dilly was a captively bred deer born visually impaired. The laws regarding having a deer are extreme in the United States and vary with each state. This deer is nifty. She lived to be 15. We used to photograph during the summers at Acquebonic Harbor in East Hampton, New York, until my husband's family's circumstances changed. All my dogs loved and missed those beaches. Now in the summer, I photograph in my hometown, Hoboken, and New York City, and Jersey City. That's my roof. We're sort of high up. We live on the 3rd floor of the firehouse. That's where my animals poop. Sometimes I invite myself to people's homes. This is Poppy Nagel. She had a nice guest house in Charlottesville, Virginia, where the Look 3 Festival used to be. A deal I made with a 10-year-old Amelia was to photograph her with primates, back when she wanted to be a primatologist. I networked through my old primate contacts to connect with a performing clown in a capuchin act. That's a plastic orange. It really pisses monkeys off when fruit isn't real. So she threw it. To save money, the clown invited us to stay with her, a real advantage in getting to know my subjects. She fed us and flew up to attend Amelia's bat mitzvah and with Emily's caretaker from our new Swan Song series. Breakfast talk is one of my favorites from these trips. It was a real surprise to see how Rosie interacted with Amelia. This gibbon is Maddie, and she charmed Amelia entirely the first year we met her, and made her more excited about continuing our project. We were grateful to be invited back to visit Maddie. Each year, Maddie was older and acted differently. The second visit, Maddie was maturing, and Amelia and Maddie had to work out their relationship, much as Amelia and I have to do. Primate adolescence is universal. Primates are different from each other, as humans are different from each other. At the third visit to Maddie, she remembered Amelia and asked to have her feet rubbed. Maddie is a real princess. While visiting Maddie, we met Tigger, a kinkajou with an outstretched pollinating tongue that we didn't know about. I didn't know about that long tongue because I didn't see it. I was shooting film, and I just didn't know. We also met 3 really lovely kangaroos that were killed by a dust pack litter. Yeah. I struggled to go with the flow with our shoots. Trying to be in control with animals can be a disaster. Sometimes all we get out of the shoot is the high of the intense experience with an animal. Samantha Serval got really spooked by knocking neighbors just before we came to the house. After hours of driving, that startling knock nearly blew my chute, but we regrouped and did what we could. Amelia wanted a Fennec Fox experience. I rephotographed Mimi and Patty, the Fennecs, the second year. There's a different one in the book. Mimi was raised with Sparky the cat, and they played with each other, really rough. While working on a 7th grade homework assignment to research articles published in African newspapers, Amelia found a syndicated article about a two-faced cat and showed me. I tracked that cat down. I photographed Frank and Louie over 4 years. He died at the age of 15 years old, and he's in the Guinness Book of World Records as the oldest surviving Janus cat. Frank and Louie's loving caretaker, Marty, was a surgical tech at Tufts Veterinary Hospital in Boston, where he was dropped off only hours old. Marty devotedly figured out how to keep Frank alive, tube feeding him to keep him from drowning because of his cleft palate. Here are the two 15-year-olds. Frank and Louie had a real teen attitude. He had 180-degree vision. One side was able to eat, and the other drooled actually a lot. Many species have drooled on Amelia. She's a real good sport about this, or she was. This is Amorous Alfonso. He forever changed my eating habits. I just can't eat turkey anymore, but Amelia doesn't. She's fine with it. We photographed baby squirrels in incubators, and it didn't make the edit, but we got these baby horned owls. My photography fallback always is to go to the dogs, but only the breeds I'm attracted to. We traveled to France when I was a finalist for the Year's Photography Festival, where I went through dog withdrawals. And I emailed my whippet breeder and asked her to help me find whippets to photograph in Paris. But I got these greyhounds. I love France. Dogs ride on trains with no hassle. My life changed in 2012 because of an invitation to present my photography at a master talk at the annual National Geographic Magazine seminar in Washington, D.C. This presentation raised me above the radar to an audience of prominent photographers, editors, and publishers. The editor that found me on the web asked me what I was working on besides the Amelia work. My answer was nothing, so I went back to the dogs. What was really important about meeting this editor was that my dean and my chair and the president of my university had asked me to stop photographing my daughter, and they thought I was exploiting my child. And I had a 3-hour breakfast with my dean where she really wanted me to stop. She was very nice to me. And so when this editor at National Geographic called me, it changed everything for me at school, and they stopped asking me to stop photographing her. Time Lightbox published 20 images called A Glimpse into the World of Dog Couture. During my 5 months of photographing dog couture, I experienced physically aggressive fashion photographers. The human animal is the scariest animal I've ever encountered. My fun was having Amelia and Nora, my Chinese crested, in the Brooklyn fashion show a month before she died. That talk at National Geographic made an enormous difference in my life, leading to publications and interviews around the world about the Amelia photographs and editorial assignments. The New York Times Magazine asked me to pitch my dream vacation for a Voyager assignment. I pitched 10 ideas. They took this one. I was granted permission to bring Amelia to photograph the swimming pigs on the island of Major Cay in the Bahamas. I didn't tell them that I didn't swim. I should learn. A particularly meaningful assignment for the New Yorker magazine was when an editor asked Amelia to write 21 captions for a feature on a series. And Amelia has done many ad-lib interviews, but never has been asked to write. I saw her history from Amelia's perspective and how much she cannot remember. It really makes me sad to realize how Amelia's memory continues to fade. A friend once told me when his children were grown that he thought of their childhood as a series of little deaths. Having a toddler, I did not understand at the time. It seemed a rather harsh view, but now I can relate. The impact of my mother's death made me commit to this project about and for my daughter. The photographs are evidence of our adventures, that we really existed, that it happened, and what Amelia will have with me and what was important to me. Maybe the animal caretakers who admit us into the world see their Maybe the animal caretakers who admit us into the world see their children and their unique experiences with animals through Amelia. It is so bittersweet to see the old videos and the Aperture Kickstarter. That was us so far in the past, many years ago, difficult to remember. The video proves it to us. As a parent, I am always a deer in the headlights, doing my best, feeling an inept failure. Although I was warned Amelia would become a teenager and then move away to college, I just did not understand what it really meant until it happened. I was brought to tears with Amelia's growing up. Heather had told me teenagers are like birds. They fly around your head and then come down to peck at you. This helped me to understand what was happening. I'm okay with it as long as we're connected. What I understand about myself is that I understand nothing until I experience it. I'm not mature. Only now that I have this mom perspective do I understand how painful it is to be a mother. Amelia is my first and only. We make mistakes on each other. I'm accepting the reality that Amelia is not mine anymore. I greatly miss my little girl, and it hurts me to watch young children. My little girl, the one in the photographs, is a nostalgic dream, like remembering your seeing your dog as a pup or knowing your parents were really young, a lifetime ago. I am proud and in awe of the young woman Amelia has become. I'm used to the Amelia who's taller than me, who corrects me, and I don't have the upper hand. I set aside deadlines when she needs me to be off the computer to sit with her. I like being part of the pack. Amelia and I are partners in a mother-daughter dance. And I'm just glad to be around her. This is a metaphor for her being away. And I'll just quickly go through these next pictures. This is the newer part of the project. That's it. Sorry, Melissa.
Okay, now we'll have the Q&A session, if anyone.
Okay, I guess I could go off stage. No questions. Oh, okay.
How did you get access to such exotic animals?
Networking. That monkey book had people trust me in the web. I used to walk around with a little book, like before the web, of pictures that I did and show people, and they were interested, because I photographed a lot of other places. But the website, people would look up my work on the web and see, I hope that they were treated with respect, and the web helped. But before that, I had a little book, and I networked among people. I always gave pictures as a thank you. But you have to have people recommend you.
Like the tiger top? Is that you would get access to?
You mentioned that Amelia is a creative collaborator. How's that evolved since she's moved out of the house and your relationship has changed, obviously, because she's not living with you anymore.
She's you know, I have to back down. You know, I think as a mother, I've taken a lot of punches, and she can be hard. She changes every minute. Teenagers are moody, and they think their mothers are stupid. So, and in many ways I am. So I work to get along, and she likes, we shop at a Salvation Army for the clothes, and another friend, Claire Rosen, has loaned me some clothes, but it's also, she uses the pictures. I don't understand how she thinks. I just don't understand, but I just go with the flow and not make sense of it anymore.
She's going to be really apologetic in the next 5 to 6 years. From daughters everywhere.
I hope I live that long.
It's true, I promise.
Thank you.
For a project like this, I guess it's a lifelong collaboration. Sometimes it might happen that because you're taking so many things across changing times, does it kind of influence the way you look at things normally? For example, if you shoot for 3 or 4 hours, let's say, and then you go back home, you kind of see everything in frames. You don't end up seeing the way normal people see. That's the effect camera has on you sometimes. You've been doing it for years with your daughter and the animals. So does it affect the way you deal with the same people in real life? Because the angles are perfect in some of the pics, the lighting is almost always perfect. So most of them are actually post photos, and then compare that to some candid moments you may have seen somewhere. How does that interlink with this?
I think what people don't understand is you can't really pose the animals, that they're moving really, really fast. I just, you know, I hope for the best. Like, I try to click a lot. It wasn't that possible with film, and with my first book, I used a Leica and a flash to like freeze the moment. And with the Mamiya, I don't know if this is helpful, but with the Mamiya 7, I can only photograph during certain times of day because of the light. I use, and I lit. But what was your question?
The question was that when you are in that frame, like you're taking pics, right? So you are with the camera, you're spending a lot of time with the camera, with those angles.
We don't photograph for 3 or 4 hours straight. They don't tolerate it. I mean, they're like, she's an animal, they're animals, and like I have to move, and that's what's great about digital. But it's not a studio situation. It's desperate, and it doesn't look that way. But you know, I don't have much time because they're impatient
So
and they're not posed.
Sorry, you're almost always waiting for the picture perfect moment.
Am I waiting? No, I'm shooting. I'm just like having every finger, toe crossed and hope. I shoot much more digitally, and it's not good, right? Like I've gone to extremes because I'm pretty type A personality. I'm pretty nervous. But what's really the hardest thing for me besides the background is the light isn't that hard with her. But when I'm shooting on assignment, what's really challenging to me is balancing sunlight and shadow. You know, I often think of Alex Webb, and I can't do it. You know, he exposes for the highlights. I mean, there's all this technical stuff, and I don't feel that I do really, really well.
The reason I ask this question is because a lot of photographers, at least ones I know, including myself, we have problems that people complain that they're taking too many pics and they're actually missing the moment.
Yeah.
Like there's a sunset and you're worried about the technicalities of the sunset rather than enjoying the sunset, and I guess a lot of that happened with you too. So do you have that time?
I'm there for a purpose. I'm not like hanging out looking for a sunset. I mean, I'm going there for a shoot, and I just have to be careful. My equipment has always, I'm in the process of like sort of trying to switch to Sony now because they're better for low light, but my big regret is not taking my Canon with me because I know it a lot better. But yeah, sometimes I miss the moment, but you should have seen me with film when I had to rewind the film. Like that was a drag, man. Like fantastic things were happening while I was doing that and turning my back to the sun. So, does that help explain?
Yes.
But this stuff is really fast, and it's like you got to do it or lose it. I wish that rhymed.
So that will be the end of Q&A. Thank you.